I've had so many of my teenagers go, nobody talks to me like you do. I don't have anybody to talk to about this, but we have to talk about it. Y'all have to understand how to navigate this. Be who you are, but you got to learn.
Know your kid. Spend that time, like, as you said, listening more and talking less.
Welcome to episode 5 of Therapist Unhinged. So today we are talking all about you teens, which means all the struggles, challenges, and then also the good stuff too of what you guys have. So yeah, we wanted to definitely talk about this, have this topic because let's face it, teens today are not the same when we were teens. Both good. They have a lot of great things.
Sure they do.
But at the same time, they have a lot of different struggles than we had.
Can we just start off with a little bit of struggle here? Because we've been riding struggle bus.
Well,
first of all, we got to give a shout out to the lady boss. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
It's your birthday.
Thank you.
Yes, so our lovely lady boss is having her birthday.
Yes.
So, we had to give her a little shout.
Thank you.
But yeah, speaking of struggles, I want y'all to check out the shirt. I did not know who this girl was until like a week ago. And then, I did find out that Reagan was like, Mom, that's like your spirit girl. And, he showed me the Beth and
Beth Dutton.
Yellowstone. That girl, y'all. And, we're having a whole issue happening on with the face. So we're having a little struggle this week. So I figured the shirt was perfect because I look like,
Sort of sweet, sort of Beth Dutton. So if you know that reference, you know what that means.
That means I'm a fighter. I fight nice though, but I do look like I've been in a fight. So
you not only have been on the struggle bus, you look like you got ran over by it.
go. And all 18 wheels are hitting me. All 18 wheels are hitting me. So I'm just gonna we are real raw and relatable.
Yep, absolutely.
So we are shifting gears on this bus.
Yes.
And I think it's shifting. Oh, I got another shout out. We got an unhinged shout out to EO Sports. EOS. Oh, see, I can't even see. Well, I thought it was cute that it was on there, but
no.
Oh well, EOS, because we're unhinged, so we're gonna make unhinged as Savage George. I do apologize.
Shout out to George.
Shout out to George and all the crew. EOS, we love you. And anyway, all right, here we go.
All right, go. Let it go.
Listen, let it go.
Let's go back to the teen struggles.
Teen struggles. So, opening up, thinking about what they have to deal with today. This social media, to me, is one of the major factors of what teens have to struggle with nowadays, which is, everything is put online. And that can be really harmful because not only are our teens looking at people that, maybe their age or even a little bit older, they're looking up to a lot of people that are on social media. They also compare themselves to what other people have or don't have. There's this big thing now I've seen my own daughter do with the hauls, which is what they do is when they buy or they get a gift from somebody like an Easter basket or Christmas, they do these things called hauls. And they're showing everything that they get from gifts. Like, so here's this basket that I got. And these kids are comparing what they got compared to what their friend got. Or, oh, my parent must not love me as much. Or, that person is so rich because they got all this stuff. And like this is going down. It just continues to go spiral and get down a rabbit hole.
Well, the struggle here. Out here, y'all know I teach the teens still, always taught high school, teaching college, a lot of dual enrollment. And, we talk about it. We talk about everything. And the problem is, and this is what I tell them, because of course, if we got to get into the playbook, the professor's playbook, the psychosocial development, COVID. And so you got these 18, 19-year-old COVID hit at 14, 15. That's when you had that like major, because middle school, cesspool, middle school, everybody's all over the place. And then it just stopped. And then you got legalism because, legalism is here's the laws, but nobody tells you how to do it. Parents backed off, teachers backed off, everybody backed off. Kids are gotta learn, gotta be educated. What do we do? And so if anybody was in any type of vulnerable state, it just, it exacerbated it. And so now you've got teens that do not even know how to like speak to each other. They don't know how to conversate, person to person, and everything is on screen. And so even with that, they're living very third person. And so it's like, kind of like we talked a little bit last time about getting jobs or even doing that or having them to do things.
Right.
They don't know how.
Right.
It's like they literally don't know how. And they were kind of missed because it was like, we just got to make sure that they're doing their school. And,
absolutely,
so these poor babies thinking they're supposed to know this stuff. And I'm like, so I feel like what I've done a lot, like in coaching, whenever like I'd had somebody have a mentor, whatever, we're never going back to basics. So I've literally taken a lot of these teenagers at the college stuff and I started them just differently, weaned it in. They didn't really know, but I had to like do some basic
It's
work
almost
with
like
them.
rebuilding the foundation.
Right.
Right? Because the way it has been formed, it's like there's a lot of cracks in it. So you have to go back and rebuild the foundation as much as you can. So I always say it takes a village, especially
Absolutely
the kids the kind of kids that, we have nowadays. And, it used to be peer pressure was like one of the biggest struggles. Now it's like you said, social media and body image. Like I hear a lot of body shaming, from kids. And it's like, well, if I'm not the thinnest, if I'm not the prettiest, then I'm not worthy or, no one sees me. And so they tend to take on the behavior in which, people have assigned to them, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like
all about labels.
Right. Like their friends or enemies have labeled them. And so that's like the way that they show up is how they're being labeled because they feel, okay, well, you know what?
For causation. If this, then that. If this, then that.
Absolutely.
If I'm this, then I'm bipolar. If I'm this, then I'm, whatever. If I'm this. And so we talk that too. You all know mental health is not causation. It's not if this, then that, because again, human experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, your experience is going to be different than yours. And I said, guess what? You're not going to be the prettiest. You're not going to be the smartest. You're not going to be the most talented. Who cares?
Right. And then just think about how social media is not only impacting them, but also how social media, they gravitate so much, they hold that like up in a pedestal. Everything that they see on TikTok, on Instagram, on whatever, that is like the end all be all. Well, I read this on Instagram or I diagnosed myself because of this on Instagram. I saw this.
Diagnosis.
Yes. And I'm just like, like it can be such a great tool. Like I like social media for like the positive, but of course that comes with the negative. And I feel that a lot of our teens are just holding it in such a high value. And that's just really kind of messing with their heads, I feel like.
Absolutely. I had a client just the other day when we were talking about like they self-diagnosed. It's almost like they want to wear the label of autistic or it could, because my team just asked me the other day, and of course other teams have asked me too, he says, do you think that I am on the spectrum? And it's like they want something so bad that,
because it can fit them into that certain like category.
Absolutely.
And they can now have that be their identity because they're looking, which teens are automatically, they're discovering who they are. They don't know who they are.
Right.
So they're just like looking for anything to like give them that, I guess, that group and that category.
Right. Or to support the fact that people have called them weird or, nerds or, you don't fit. So they're trying, they're like it's almost like they want to be labeled a misfit or they think, they want to be labeled a misfit and then that'll, help create some sense of belonging.
Yes.
Got to piggyback. Yesterday in class, I said, we were doing our growing older interviews and presentations and everything. I said, but wait, I got to ask y'all something because it came up a few times this last week. And I said, when we went to school and we're the same age, whatever, I said, but if nobody really talked about like anything. If it wasn't in your family or you didn't go to church or nobody knew, and it wasn't like we go, oh, they're gay or, oh, they're a mixed couple or, oh, we just didn't, or they're Pentecostal and they're Catholic. We didn't talk about it. They always said, don't put your business on the streets.
Absolutely.
So on the flip side, it's like, oh, everybody talks about everything. Everybody's good. Everybody, oh, you're gay, you're straight, you're purple, you're green. But they keep telling me, they go, it is worse. They said, we're the racists. We're the homophobes. We're the ones. They go, we talk about everybody. We are judged by everybody. So it's not that it is being accepted, because that's where I was kind of like, but aren't y'all open? Like, isn't this out? They go, well, but we're horrible to each other. I go, why? Like, what then? They said, it's worse. They said, it is terrible. I go, because I literally think like everybody goes, oh, yogas are this. I'm like, but we're not. Like, I don't care. They said, all the high schools, everything, they said, you can't be this here. You can't be that there. If you're, and these are my students telling me this. And I'm just going, but I thought y'all were open and acceptable and TikTok and this. And
So
they said, but not in real life. They say in real life, it's almost worse, more cliquey. Because I was kind of like in middle school, you kind of get, I said, but in high school, you kind of find your people who cares. And they're like, but it's not.
Yeah. I think it is the clicky. It is more clicky now, so if they're, like you said, like the misfits, they're over here and the odd ones are and then everyone is judging everybody else and no one can like cross over. Like I know when I was in school, I was kind of friends with everybody. I was friends with like the jocks, the Hispanics, the blacks. I was kind of friends with a little bit of everybody and that was acceptable. But now apparently it is very much more like, you stay in your little cliques.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's that if you hang with, people of color, well, then you think you're that. Or if you hang with people that are same sex, then you're
right.
Well, first of all, don't put my name in your mouth. Well, tell me what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that hurting you? And that's what I keep going to. Why are you so afraid?
But you know what the thing about it is, and that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it hurting you? And the thing is, again, they want some sense of belonging, right? So I've seen it where you're willing to abandon a certain group of people because you don't want other people to know that you are hanging out with this group or you are a part of this group or you like this group. And, so that's wow.
So where do you think that comes from? Where do you think that that shift has happened?
I just think that, especially with teenagers, they are so concerned with what everybody thinks about them. Let me change that. They are so concerned with what their non-friends and friends are saying about them. Because I don't really think they care about what their parents are thinking about them.
Right.
Because they are so concerned with the friends. Because I've even had teenagers tell me, and I was used to work in an elementary school as a school social worker. And I've had like 5th and 6th graders tell me, oh, my friend told me to just, I should just go jump off a bridge and die. Mm-hmm. And it's like, are you going to do, I'm looking at them like, okay, if my friend told me that, I'd be like, well, why don't you go jump off a bridge and die first? But they hold that to heart and they start to internalize that because what their friends say is golden.
And that slips off their tongue so easily too, is like, why don't you go die? Like that's one thing that my daughter told me that she's heard so many times is that person, just go die or just go jump off, go do it. And I'm just like, wow, I don't ever remember that coming through my head as a kid, telling somebody that.
But I'm telling you guys, because if we go into Eric Erickson's psychosocial development, that is where they learn, and their biggest is peers right then.
Absolutely.
Well, they were shut down. They couldn't talk to anybody. They couldn't, and even just listen to their language. When they say my friend, I go friend.
That's why I say
I stop right there and I just go define friend.
Please do.
And because they don't, and I'm telling you, they don't know. They really don't. And that's the sad part is that they don't really know. I've had so many of my teenagers go, Robin, nobody talks to me like you do. I don't have anybody to talk to about this because I don't want people to look at me.
That's right.
And I said, and there you go. I said, so I'm in my classes, I tell them all the time, and I said, we're no judgment here. I said, but we have to talk about it. We have to talk about it. Y'all have to understand how to navigate this. Be who you are, but you got to learn that.
But here's the thing. You're saying talk about it to the right people, because if they're talking about it with just their little clique and their friends and stuff, either they're going to be given really negative or misguided information, or they're going to be taking everything that they say to heart, and that's the end all be all of what they think. So it's yes, talk about it. We need to have these conversations, but we also need to make sure it's in a good space and with the right people.
Well, that's what I was going to go next. Is that remember we have been, saying we want to get into the school system. You guys know I'm education. Yes. This summer, I want to reach out to DPS or whoever, because we're in Brevard, but so that we can have parent forums, we can have teacher forums, we can have student forums, because there's so many things and there's so many this, that and that. Have a protocol set in place.
Absolutely.
I tell students all the time, I said, you shouldn't even have to, I appreciate that, but you know what you do? Okay, I'm going to hear you and we're going to walk over here. And I'm going to give you to somebody that can handle it.
Right, because there's such a disconnect.
Yes.
There's such a disconnect between the school, the parent, the student. There's such a disconnect.
But also students, they're trying to like do things that they're not equipped to do. And next thing you know, they're coming in and going, I can't handle this. And I go, why would you even be put in that position?
But you know what? That's a good point you just made too. Because there are a lot of teens that are taking on parental roles. Mm-hmm. They're having to be the parent in their house. So they can't be a kid. They can't hang out with friends. They can't be 12, 13 years old because they are being the parent, and the parent is right there in the home, but they're still having to do it, especially if they have siblings, younger siblings, they're doing it. And I know this because, I've worked with teens who have said, hey, I have to get up and take care of my siblings. Mm-hmm. I have to do this and still get myself to school. And then sometimes, because I dealt with truancy in the schools and it's like, why aren't you in school? Well, nobody woke me up, or we don't have an alarm clock, or we don't have a way to get there. So there's a lot of different things or a lot of risk factors that are at play to where teens, they just can't be who they want to be because they're so busy being everybody else.
Right. Bringing that too is like, okay, they're doing all this at, 12, 13 up to whenever they're out of the house. How has that impacted them when they're older? Well, that can be like really great and positive because it shows them how to be responsible early on. Like there are some good things about being that responsible, being an older sibling and taking care of things, but at the same time, sometimes that can have an opposite effect, which is all I ever did was take care of everybody else. Either they're going to be like that again and want to take care of their spouse or whoever else, or they're going to be like, you know what, screw everybody else. And I'm going to go and party now. Now I'm going to be great, drinking and driving and doing all this stuff that they didn't get to experience when they were younger. So it really, teens is such an influential time period, and I always say like children can be like aliens from the age of like 11, 12 to like 16. They're like different humans because they're like figuring it out. They're, hormones, they're figuring out who they want to be and getting influenced by all this stuff. And then they kind of start to come back around when they're around 17, 18, they start to be like human again. I know. Then you're like, oh, you're my child. I remember you. But
y'all pay attention because y'all heard that in class. Same thing. I literally have a graph and I showed it with one of my beautiful babies. She's brilliant. Super, super smart, but would literally come in and be like, why am I being so ugly to my parents? Like what? I mean, we're talking, this girl is, I literally showed her a picture. I said, here's your frontal lobe. It's in the toilet.
It is definitely in the toilet.
And she literally, but it was like, that's all she needed. She goes, is that what am I projecting? So I don't have control of my emotions and I'm not making, like she literally kept, and I said, bingo, you're healed, move on. But that's what I'm saying. When we start talking about it, I said a lot of times they don't know. And that's why I say, even with that, I show them this why.
Yeah, Lord forbid if you're a boy.
Oh my gosh. Because you only got enough blood to operate one head at a time. That's all I got to say. Yes. But that's what I'm saying. I think sometimes too, they want somebody to just say, you're okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're okay. Yeah, this sucks. This weird. And guess what? You're going to mess up again. But you're okay. Yeah. But you also have to be careful. You have to.
Yeah, and they
careful.
Also want sometimes just validation.
Absolutely.
Like hey, am I right for like feeling this way or thinking this way or making this move? Like, absolutely. Yeah. I was just talking to one of my teens. She's 16 and just started, driving. This girl is so intelligent and like very an old soul for her age. And I just love her to death. She is just now starting to be able to speak up to her parents and like have a voice. And she'll be like, I don't want to be disrespectful or I don't want to be this, but I feel this way. And I'm like, get that voice. I will help you. Let's talk about different ways you can approach that with still being respectful to your parents. But like your voice is, you're allowed to have that voice. Yes. And let's learn how to bring that up to your mom in here. Let's bring your mom in, or why don't you try doing this? And just seeing how much she's already grown in the last few months is like amazing. And I'm just like, this is where we say, talk about it in a safe space, because if if you're out there and you're listening, or if you have a teen that's just kind of like everywhere, they're not talking to you anymore. They don't want anything to do with you. I know a lot of parents say that. They're like, oh, my teen's just completely closed off. They just go to their room or they're on their phones. Like every time I ask them a question, they just shut down. Okay, that's okay. Just letting them know that you're there when you need,
Absolutely.
Not forcing them, but also saying, you want to just talk to somebody. You just want to have like someone that's not your parent or your brother or your sister, like having someone to talk to, like that's okay. Doesn't mean something is seriously wrong with your child. That's another thing, is still getting that stigma out of their minds. Like, oh, okay, so your child must have major depression, or your child must have this because they're not talking to you. Well, maybe they're a little bit depressed, but it doesn't mean that they have depression. There's a difference.
Again,
Situation.
You're coming to talk to my kids because that's the thing. I think now that, again, positive negatives, the fact that, mental health is in conversations now, but again, it's like, but I'm there. No, y'all know how many demographics boxes you have to check. And it was funny. I just happened to see a little reel the other day, and this gentleman was like, yeah, that's just life. Yeah, that's just Tuesday. Mm-hmm. That was just your coffee spilling.
Yep.
No, that was traffic.
It's true. I mean, and that's unfortunate. Like I said, the social media aspect is so big because they diagnose themselves. They're like, oh, well, I have that symptom, this symptom, this symptom. I'm experiencing this, this, and this. Okay, you can have this, but also just have situation, and you're growing and you're developing. So that is just one thing we need to talk to our teens more about, just like everyday things,
And don't be afraid to tell them your experiences. You don't have to tell them the whole kit and caboodle, but don't be afraid to tell your teens, hey, when I was your age, I struggled with a little bit of depression. And I think sometimes too, parents are afraid that if they talk to their kids about certain things, that all of a sudden, okay, the kid is going to be like, okay, that's what I have. That's what I have.
Right.
Sometimes normalizing, things.
Normalizing.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, when I'm working with my parents, because a lot of times it is, I said, listen, they know you love them, but you are operating from fear right here. And that's what they're feeling. And so they can't even understand anything over here because they're so heightened in their limbic system. But it's also, I said, when you create that authenticity, with yourself, I said, even when it's uncomfortable, I said, but you create a space to where somebody else can come in and also be authentic. Yes. And that's where because I'm so wide but open. I mean, my students, but they know. And it's funny because, especially because, I'm system, so I work with all the family. And sometimes what I see is that when the teenagers start to find their voice, here comes daddy, here comes mama, here comes whatever, and Dr. Rob and Dr. Rob, and again, and I said, that's fine. I said, yes. I said, but here's the thing. This is what's happening. And I said, this is where they are. I said, however, you are still a parent with it, but I have to really bring them in too and say, but this is what they're hearing. And so now it's like, then I got mom and dad. They're like, when you coming on Tuesday? Because, because it does bring up everything.
Yeah. And that just made me think too. It's like you said, like creating that space with them. And it's like when you do create that space and they do open up, you need to check yourself. Like, I know we said this a few weeks ago, like you need to check yourself as a parent and say, how am I going to react? Am I reacting because I don't like what I'm hearing, but it's their truth? Or am I reacting because I feel like what is going to be your response after that? Because you're trying to create that space, but if you shut them down or you punish them for feeling a certain way, that is one of my biggest pet peeves. And I see it happen all the time. It's like, well, they told me they feel this and that's just not true. I don't do that. Or I don't do this. Okay, you may not think you are. I'm not saying you're coming from a bad place being a parent, but they're feeling that way for a reason. You have to listen, and your job now is to listen to your child. And I'm so, that gets me so upset because I see it so often where parents will, like, the child opens up like, okay, well, what's your deal? I'm just going to give you a scenario. So let's say your son is, closing off to you. You guys used to be really close. He's now trying to go off in his, figure things out. He likes a girl. And you're trying to be intrusive and really ask him a lot of questions. Well, he's not ready to go there yet with you. Right. Well, then finally, when he does go there with you, you're like, well, I want to know X, Y, and Z. I want to know where you're doing, who you're talking. what you're doing. Let me see your text messages. Let me check your social media. Let me do this. Let me do this.
Look over here.
Exactly. And then what does that do?
It
Then
shuts them back down.
that's they're going to be like, nope. Guess what? I'm pulling back. And then you're wondering why your child again pulls back from you or then lies to you. And that's another thing. If you constantly have a child that is lying to you and you're constantly catching them in lies, check yourself for a second. I'm not saying it's your fault as a parent, but I'm saying you need to figure out why they're lying. Are they lying because they don't feel that they can come to you? Are they lying because if they do come to you, you're just going to shut them down or punish them for a certain way, the way they're feeling? So this again goes back to us on being a parent is you can't just always point the finger to the child. It's not the child to be fixed. Sometimes it's you to really try to understand where they're coming from.
You know, and one of my things that I say is being a parent does not come with a handbook.
No.
And every kid is different.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, even in your own home, the kids that you have more than one child, yes, they're different. And you have to parent them different.
Yes.
You know, the love can be the same, but you parent them different. And you have to know your kid. You know, I had kids, two of my girls were like, they told me everything. Some stuff I didn't want to know. But then my son is more closed off. And sometimes I think it's because I'm a woman and he doesn't think he told me you're not a man. But you definitely have to know your kids because I tell my parents, look, if parenting came with a handbook, I'll tell you to look on page 74 and
exactly.
Oh, go to page 101. Why don't you go to the table of contents? It's right there. But it's not. Mm-hmm. So know your kid. You know, spend that time, like, as you said, listening more and talking less.
Listening more, talking less. Right. I like that.
Yeah.
That was even a leadership thing I saw. They said, you know, one of the top 5 traits of leaders, the very first one was active listening.
Yep.
And it's funny because, you know, I always say, you know, education, I'm more of a direct, more of a teacher, coaching, you know, more of, but doing this full, you know, the last 3 years. It's funny. I was thinking that to myself the other day. I was like, God, I listen so much now and I hear things so quickly now. As soon as I hear it, you know, cause I'm like, oh yeah, that's that. Okay. I get, and that's the thing. It's like, but I still, you know, there's still things. And I told people all the time, I live it, breathe it, eat it, sleep it, research it, teach it. Yeah. And I'm still a human.
Yeah.
I still have children. Yeah. And I still mess up.
Yeah.
And I still don't know. but it's funny because you said know your children first. Can I go a little bit deeper and say, you gotta know yourself first?
True.
You gotta know yourself
Hopefully
first.
by then you do.
Unfortunately, that's the problem. Yeah. I'm sorry, but that's
hopefully there's hope.
I said things just get taller and older sometimes.
Yeah.
But I also tell them, and I also tell myself because, you know, I came from definitely we were latchkey kids, you know, we were the first generation. I said, we didn't have emotions. They weren't invented. Like, we could be crying, whatever. You coming out? Yes, ma'am. You want broccoli? Okay. Like, that's what it was.
So what are you crying for?
Yeah. I'll give you something to cry. I'll give you something to cry for.
And then you look like this. No, we're kidding. So, but I said so many times to my teenagers, I said, here's the thing. You all now are the ones with the vocabulary. Mm-hmm. I said, y'all are teaching your parents. And a lot of times, you know, that space between learning and not learning, that frustration, when parents start to lash out, it's because they're frustrated too. Mm-hmm. You know, and I said, but it's not just they're wrong, you're right, they're wrong. You know, sometimes like you want to be right or you want to keep the peace.
Right. And parents are trying to do all that they've learned how to do, like from our, you know, generation to generation, culture shifts and things like that. Like we're also learning, but that is again where I always tell parents to check yourself because where are you parenting from? Where are you parenting from? Fear, a lot of times fear, your own personal beliefs, which is fair, you know, how you were raised, that's fair, you know, but at the same time, we said this a couple weeks ago, you know, what is your goal? Are you trying to get through to your child? Are you trying to have a good relationship for them? Or are you trying to prove that you're right? Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. Are you just trying to prove that you're right and they're wrong? Or like, cause what is that going to do? Okay. You're a parent. You're the one that's always right. Right. But how is that going to help your child? I mean, because I can't tell you how many times even still to this day, things cut out of my kid's mouth and I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, really? Did you really just say that to me? But at the same time, I'm like, okay. Come back to that in 5 years and I want to hear that. I'm going to remember what you just said to me. I'm going to remember that statement and I'm going to go like, yeah, you're so right.
I'm still now. The look on my face and you're still talking. But as you said that, I was thinking to myself, I have to remind myself, I say, TJ, just shut up.
Yeah, you do.
Don't say anything.
That's all I do is I'm just like,
Yeah.
yep.
And I'm over there like,
I'm over there. I go, oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
I go, who told you that? Really? Oh, okay.
Mom, I found out, I heard it on TikTok. My friend told me this.
I was like, you need new friends.
I know. They're like, I saw it on TikTok. The world is sinking, Mom.
Sinking.
And I'm like,
Or
okay,
it's
that's the
sinking.
stupidest
Yes.
thing I've ever heard. Okay.
But again, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, I always go, who are they? They said they. Where are they?
Where are they?
Yo, they. Hi.
they said I could get an apartment and make it.
Go ahead. Go
You
ahead.
work 12 hours a week.
I know.
You work 12 hours a week.
Go ahead.
But I like that. Sometimes you just gotta say, go ahead.
I do.
That's
do
what I'm
it.
saying.
Mhm.
Like, do it. And like,
Exactly what I do.
the thing that a lot of mistakes that parents that I see make is that when their child is saying, I'm just going to go do this, Mom, even though you know that that's a really big mistake,
Right.
it's like, go ahead.
Mhm.
You have to let them at a
Pack
certain
some
age.
snacks.
Yep, pack some snacks. I'll never forget. And this is, of course, very different
Bring a
from teen.
toothbrush.
This is very different from a teen, but I'll never forget when my mom, when I was like, she said I was like 6 years old. And I remember doing this on my little bicycle, but she says that I was running away to my aunt's house. And she said she couldn't remember what I did, but like I got on my tricycle. She goes, okay, you have your teddy bear? Do you have your favorite blanket? Yep, you're good. Bye. She said I went all the way down the street and then I just stopped. I'm like, where am I going? And then I rode my backpack home. My mama goes, you're back already? I thought you were gone. And I'm like thinking on that. I'm like, that's awesome. I can't believe you did that. I briefly remember being on my tricycle alone, but that was it. But like things like that. Okay. Your 18, 19-year-old says that they can make it on their own. Okay. Bye.
Don't let the door hit you where the
Here's-
door
I'm
splits
telling you, I just heard that this week.
Here's your
Keep
nails.
it going,
Here's your
girl.
nail. Yep.
And you know what? I flip my brain over and I go, okay, do not respond to that, TJ. And I did. I go, oh, okay. And then silence. He goes, well, I'm not going to move out right away. I didn't think so.
Mm-hmm.
No, and that's when you go, oh man, because I already, listen, what you pausing for? Well, I'm thinking what color I want to paint your room.
Yeah. Right.
Like listen, everybody asked me, they literally, some of our other, they're like, Raymond, how are you with these teenagers? I said, y'all, I've been teaching teenagers for 30 something years. I said, you gotta be crazier than they are. But you gotta speak it to them because yeah, really? Oh, I like that. Wait, hold on. Let me get some popcorn here. No, I'm coming back. Oh, you got more? Okay, wait, hold on. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna get a whole, wait. Oh, you want to post this? Oh, I mean, that's good. I like it.
Yeah.
And then they look at you like, are you here for real? No, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Show me how to do it. Because if you can do it, because let me tell you, I want to work 12 hours a week to be able to do it. Absolutely show me how to do it.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing is that, we have,
You got it.
we gotta let them sometimes. We do. We just gotta let them see it. Let them. Yeah. Let them, try it out. Let them see how it's, what it's like. That's why I'm a big believer too, speaking of teens and like letting them work. Oh my gosh. Like so many kids nowadays, they don't work. They don't have jobs at all. Like, and I'm talking about, I don't care if they mow lawns every weekend, like whatever it is. They don't have to have like a 9 to 5 or anything. And it's just to teach them like how to, what money is, responsibility.
Time management.
Time management.
Right. Time management.
You can scroll for 4 hours, but you can't serve a hamburger.
Yeah.
And it's grown as my son wants to be. I'm like, yeah, part of being grown. Okay, so you want me to treat you like you're grown. Part of being grown is going to work when they schedule you and working your shift.
Yep.
It's not getting your shift away.
Right.
That's money. Money is time. Time is money.
And here's the electric bill.
Yeah.
And that's the water bill. That's your part now. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Be grown.
And another thing too, it's our responsibility as the parents is to kind of force that on them. Like, okay, you're 15, 16 now, you want a car, you want this. Okay, well, let's teach you how to get, you need help getting a job. And like, even if they don't need to financially, like I know parents go, well, I don't want my kids to work. I want them to focus on school. Yes. You want them to focus on school. Absolutely. I've always told my kids, school is your priority. That's your job. That's your primary position. However, another piece of what school doesn't teach you is responsibility. They don't teach you what it's like, how to do money and how to feel like, okay, I just worked, 20 hours this week and I have $100 paycheck. And if I go below this in one day, I'm going to feel like crap. I just worked all those hours for that. Like they need to understand that. So when you have money as a parent, like financially well off, and you can give your kids their credit card, okay. Again, when are they going to find value in the money? What, when they're out of the house and they're going to be like, oh, what do I do now?
Right.
And even on the flip side, though, real quick, parents go, well, I just don't know what to do. I was like, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Take away the phone, take away the credit card. But then they won't. Oh, okay. So, so you're creating a situation, but then you want to complain about it.
Absolutely. Right.
But you want them to understand they can't.
Right.
Think about it. None of us can really understand until we go through it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, have you ever seen it? And this reminds me of like the guys that put on the little like pregnancy things because just cute.
Oh yeah,
and
I love it.
And I was like, yeah, cute. And again, not that we want you to have to understand birth, but here's also the thing. And guys, I still go back. I go, they are not adults.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. You know, why are we mad with them all the time when just go, hey, okay, set it up. Give them that foundation. Like we said, they don't know how to do this. I had one of my young babies in there. She's like, why are we doing geometry? Oh my God. And you know what? Can't we do like something and teach me how to budget my money? I was like, yeah, it would be good, but a circle, and okay. She goes, I don't care. You know, but it's like they're struggling too because it's like they want to do well. They want to please their parents.
They want a place.
You know, but they want to feel good about themselves. They want to be accomplished. But again, that's what I'm saying. That's that legalistic mentality of you have to do this and this are the rules, but nobody's teaching them.
But just think about how much it helps build their self-esteem and self-confidence by having a job too. Like it teaches them, like you said, like the responsibility, time management, teaches them how to respect people other than your parents, you know, maybe seeing what it's like to, like I said, like if they're making $15 an hour, what it's like to take home a paycheck of only like $40
and budget that money
and budget saying I have gas to pay for. And I've made both of my kids and I've told them both like, yes, like, yeah, mama's going to be setting up a trust for you and doing all this stuff, but that doesn't mean I'm going to hand it to you. There's stipulations to that. I'm going to make sure you're working, you're doing what you're supposed to do because I'm not going to just hand it to you. And like, that is where the entitlement factor comes in to a lot of our kids is the entitlement. Like, oh, well, I don't have to work. I can do this. My dad will do it.
But is it not a learned behavior? What do I say? Why do people act the way they do? Because they're allowed to.
Oh, yeah.
They're allowed to.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Again, we keep pointing out the teens, and that's what I keep saying is like, but I go, but where's the coach? Where's the teacher? Where's the parent? Where's the this? Like literally one of my clients the other day, and she was so, you know, talking about her 12-year-old and such and such. And I go, whoa, stop. I go, who's in charge? And she was like, I go, who was in charge? But again, because it's like she was trying to, and you know, and I go, she was, oh my God, like, because that's the thing. Parents are struggling too. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's like they're trying to navigate. The kids are trying to navigate. And everybody's in this emotional state. And I go, okay, but where are we? What are we doing? Because first and foremost, our kids are supposed to be protected 1,000%. 1,000%. And that's not happening either. That is not happening either. And I see it every day, especially in our school system. It is not happening. And that's what I'm saying. These kids are struggling.
Yeah, in so many different aspects. That's why I felt like today was such a big deal because there's so many things going on in the school systems. You know, like it's a mess. And the kids are the one being affected. And these are the young, soon to be adults that are going to be running our country one day. Right. It's like, that's scary to think that. And, you know, not saying that like, you know, oh, none of you teens today could, you know, run the country because there are amazing kids out there.
I've seen it.
But it's kind of not fair to you either because like we're failing you. Like our school system's failing you and our being certain, you know, parents not healed are failing you. And that's another thing to think about too. As a parent, from what you've gone through in your own childhood and your own situations, have you healed? Have you grown? Have you held yourself accountable for choices that you've made? No? Okay, then that means you need to do work so that you can be a better parent to your child and that you can show them a better example, you know, like, and I get it. Like I empathize with parents, you know, who've gone through divorce and single moms and dads out there. I mean, there are so many single parents, you know, I was a single parent for a while too. And it's like, it's like, yeah, they're struggling, but like, again, at the end of the day, we are the ones responsible for our kids and our teenagers and, more than the school system.
Right.
So the school system is already is their own set of problems. We can't necessarily control what goes on over there, but we can control what we show and what we show up for.
Absolutely.
In our houses with our kids.
Absolutely. And setting that foundation starts at home.
Mm-hmm.
We set the foundation. We set the tone.
Yep. And if you're a single parent out there too, one of the best things a psychologist ever told me, and he says, Nella, if your child has at least one stabilizing force in their life, so one parent that shows up every day that they can come to, that they can trust, that they could feel like, you know what, my mom or my dad is going to be there every single day for me, show up for me, then that is all that child needs to succeed.
Thank you, doctor.
And I will never forget that he told me that.
Yeah. And you know what? I work with a lot of single parents and I think it's because, my son's going to be 23. My two other ones, that were my students are, 23, 24. And we work and we have to be strong. And that's, and they're boys. And so, got my Beth Dutton shirt on again. Didn't know her. Now I love her. But, I had to be mom, dad, police chief, preacher, executioner, cheerleader, teacher, but we get it all. And I tell my single parents all the time, I go, listen, I got you. Yeah, it's hard. But again, you're doing it. Don't worry about this or that or comparing this or what about? I go, what about what? I said, if your child needs an extra year to like sleep with you in the room or if a child, so what? It doesn't matter. You meet that baby where they are. You meet their needs. Because when they feel emotionally safe, then they feel confident. Mm-hmm. I said, you're going to be surprised how they show up for you.
That's right. Show up and show out.
That's what I'm saying.
And just remember too, teens, this is only a short period of their life. And if you're a teenager listening or you're a parent listening, teens is just a time period, a very drop in the sand. Mm-hmm. in what your life is really going to be about. Mm-hmm. So just think about as if you're coming from a parent's perspective, is that that's all temporary, but it's also influential. So how you're showing up for them now is going to help determine what kind of relationship you're going to have with your child. Mm-hmm. So if you have a really shitty relationship, if you have a shitty relationship with your teenager,
gets me every time. I get so tickled.
Oh my god! If you have a shitty relationship, I'm saying shitty.
Say it again.
If you have a shitty relationship with your child or your teen for years and you're not changing anything about the situation, if you're not showing up differently, if you're not trying to get help and recognizing that you're a part of the problem, you can also be a part of the solution. And if you don't do that, then that's going to affect your relationship with them later on. And if you're a teenager, how you just think about it. It's just a drop in the sand. So if you're having it tough right now, and if you're like, this life sucks, I don't want to be here. And I know so many kids do that. And, suicide is a huge, huge thing. And yes, we're going to have to talk about that. Mm-hmm. But just think everything is temporary. You will get through it and your whole life is ahead of you, your whole life. So if things are tough now, trust me, they do get better and better and better as long as you're working on yourself every single day.
Self-development.
And I'm going to go back to before the multiple shits, before the shit storm hit, before it hit, I'm going to get my own blow off.
Before the end hit the
fan. I also heard something, and this was a while ago, and it says, if you do not listen to the little things, your children will not come to you with the big things. Mm. And, and I literally had parents say, they'll look at me and they'll just my child walks in and I just really go, what do you want me to do? Are you done? Are you done? Are you done?
Look at that body language.
Yeah.
They already feel defeated.
And so I go, do you want to come in? I said, think about this. You come and pay money to get help and all of a sudden you're spilling your whatever. And I'm sitting there going,
you're not going to come back.
You done? What are we doing? I got things to do. I got other clients or this. But you wouldn't do that. I said, you don't know what I would do. But I don't even know you. You don't even know me. This is your child. And this is how you're showing up for them. Why in the world would they want to spend time with you? Why would they want to tell you anything? Because you clearly don't want to hear it. I said, so, and that's what I'm saying. Sometimes parents do not even realize. Not go right back at them.
And I always say the time you don't want to hear is the time you need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you don't know what you said. Again, like we were talking about, like with teen struggles, you don't know what they're struggling with.
And how long and how
long and
hard
what the
it
next
has
step is going
been
to be
for them to even get to that point
Absolutely.
to say something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then that makes me think too, is like, if you are trying to control, if you think that protecting them is controlling them, those are two different things.
Absolutely.
You can protect your child by not controlling them. And sometimes parents think, and I've been guilty of this too, and I learned, but like, you take away their phone, you track everywhere they are, you time them of when they're coming back from work, all this stuff. And you think that by having all that control, that is going to solve the problem. No, you got to go backwards. Mm-hmm. You trying to control the situation. So like, let's say, like, I know that there's a parent that is trying to control who their son is seeing. They don't want to see their son with, a certain girl. And it's like, okay, I'm going to take away their phone. I'm going to track them where they are at all times. I'm going to go through their phone every single day. I'm going to block that girl on every social media outlet. I'm going to do all this stuff. It's like, okay, do you really think, first of all, does that help your relationship with your child?
Nope.
Second of all, do you really honestly think that child is not going to find a way, that 16, 17, 18-year-old child is not going to find a way to talk to that girl?
Learn the phones, baby.
Yeah. I mean, they figure out a way. Do you really think so? Like, you need to take a step back and say, like, okay, is what I'm doing really productive? Is what I'm doing actually going to help the situation? Because by controlling everything is not going to be. And like, it's funny, I'm talking about a certain situation. And it's like, this mom has no idea how many tricks that's happening. And he's still talking to the girl every single day. And this mom thinks that she has all this control. It's like,
Well, and even with that, then you're teaching your child to lie and deceive.
right.
And manipulate, and also the fact you think they respect you.
And that's the
No,
thing.
because you don't even see them as a whole person.
Right.
And they're looking and they're laughing at
And
you.
why would you not want to be a part of your children's life? And they can't even tell you anything now because they know how you are.
Yeah.
And that's just too much control. And I always say, you can't control another human being.
Mm-hmm.
That includes our kids. I can't control my kids because of my COVID. They'd be like,
I know, right?
But we can't. No, we can't.
And we shouldn't. And if you think about it, why do we want to control that? Like, we always have to think about the why behind it. Is why am I trying to control the situation? Is it about me? Or is it about them? Exactly, it is.
Right?
It is always about you, of why you're trying to control the situation. Do you not like that they're trying to step away from you? That they're trying to figure out who they are? Do you fear something? Like, you need to realize what it is.
Right.
Or have you put up such a persona?
That's another story. But I want my children or my adult kids, children, to respect me.
Yes.
I don't want to control them. I want to, and I believe that I've earned that respect, but you gotta, it's just not, it's not something that you can control. They see you, they see how you, cause I always say, if I can't ask anything of my kid that I'm not willing to do myself. If I say that, you should work hard, it's because I work hard. Mm-hmm. I try to exemplify those things in my children's life so that when I talk, it's not just talk. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about it. I'm doing it. I'm a hard worker. You can do it. Yes, I struggle. You can get through it. Mm-hmm. Yes, you've seen me at my worst and now you see me at my best. You can do it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Even when I would work with teachers and, they would always talk about in respect, respect gets thrown around. I mean, sorry. And you're the, but what does it mean to you? But here's what I said, first and foremost, as a PE teacher, former PE teacher, everybody would laugh. Oh, you teach it. I said, y'all know my classroom management. I said, let me tell you something. You have to have some serious control of your grammar and everything else. I said, but that's not it. I said, but here's the thing. I said, when we talk about respect, I said, you command respect. You don't demand.
Love it.
Because
True.
command is the way you show up, the way you're prepared.
That's right.
You have your research.
That's
you know where you are and everything else. I said, but you also have to know, like, this is who you are. You're responsible for this situation. And if anything were to happen, I have to control the situation to keep you safe. Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And when parents can understand that, it, again, always goes back to safety, for everybody. And that's the thing. It's like, my boys know flat out, I don't play, but I don't lie. But I do. And they've come back and they're like, well, you know, Mom. And I'm like, you know what? That's fair. You're right. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always feel good.
Right.
Doesn't always feel good.
Trust me.
We know, because our kids, they will.
Well,
and
my kids will tell me.
yes, they do.
And I welcome it.
I do too. And I'm glad I've developed that now, you know, because
I wasn't always there.
That's the thing. Exactly. And I have been there. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I've not only like seen it in our clients, we not only like live it with our different families and dynamics, but like also in our own lives, you know. And I love the fact that now that my kids are a little older, you know, like they literally call me for everything. My son tells me things in college that I don't want to know. And I'm just like, okay. And like, he's telling me, and I'm glad that he feels open enough. And I'm just like, please just be safe. Please just do this, you know, like, and then my daughter, the same thing. And, you know, I'm glad I have developed that relationship. But there are times, you know, where, you know, they'll tell me, oh, Mom, you know, can you do this? Or you said this, and it kind of hurt my feelings. Oh, like, okay, like I need to listen. You know, and I need to hear them. And so I think that's one thing that we really just need to continue doing.
And apologize.
Oh, absolutely.
I had a parent ask me, I'm seeing her 16-year-old daughter. She goes, what can I do to help, you know, bridge the gap in mine and my daughter's relationship? And I just looked at her and go, apologize. No, you're sorry. You know, you didn't do that right. You didn't get that right. You had the best intentions, but it just, it didn't yield the greatest results. And she's like,
yeah, you need to as a parent. I can't tell you, I have to apologize to my kids numerous times. And it's like, they see that. I mean, like, you could just see it in their eyes sometimes, like, oh my gosh, like, my mom actually apologized to me. You're like, yeah.
Well, and that's another thing with our teenagers. We've always been mom. We've always been dad. And now when you do that, they start to go, my mom is actually a whole person.
She is not a robot.
My dad is actually, he's got some issues at work. Wow. Like, you know, and it really does give them a little bit, because that's the thing. They have to step into that, because they don't see us as, you know, up until we were just the caretakers and everything else. But also, I wanted to give a little like quick tip, because I know we're getting ready to wrap up, because I know sometimes parents go, okay, that all sounds good and everything, but what do I do? How do I even like start a conversation with my teenager or whatever who doesn't want to talk to me? What I do all the time, even like when I did yesterday in class, and again, I always about, you know, I go, okay, hey, you know, TJ, listen, baby, I know things have been a little rocky, but can you teach me? Like, what am I missing? What am I not getting? Because I don't want to have this gap. You know, I love you, but I'm at my wit's end and clearly I'm not getting it right. Can you help me? Everybody wants to help somebody. Everybody wants to feel confident. Everybody loves to, you know, okay, I know we want you to be an attorney, but you love the mandolin. Can you help me understand? Because
that's right.
I don't want to push you into something to then have you hate me and resent me and we have all this, but I need more information.
Right.
And that's one of the best things you do.
And that's what I mean. Knowing your kid, going back, if you have started off on the wrong path, going back and correcting the wrongs, you know, getting their buy-in, making them feel like, hey, you do have control over your own life. I just want to be here to support you, even if it's in the back, right? Yeah. You're the driver.
or asking them, how can I support
How can I
you?
support?
Well, how do you
And
want me
I
to
ask
show
them,
up?
how can I support
You
you?
know, where do you want? Because, some kids really want you up front and center. Other kids are like, no, I want you in the background.
Right.
But
And when I turn around and say, I need you.
and we have, like you said, two different, two or different kids. It's like, we have to remember that too.
Absolutely.
So we're asking them, like, how do you want me to show up? What do you need from me as a parent now? Say you're 16 now, or you're 18 now, or you're 20. What kind of, what do you want me to be in your life?
Right. Right. I agree with that.
We need to be vulnerable to say that.
Exactly. But also they hear it differently, because that's when they'll say, they're like, Dr. Ron, we hear your name so much, or Coach Rob, whatever. And I go, because they're hearing me in their logic brain. They're not in a panic, fight or flight, thinking I'm going to take their fault. You know what I mean? I said, and so they hear it differently. I said, and when that happens, then you can start to say, okay, but fair. I realize my behavior. Okay. Yeah, it's terrible. And I realize now I'm afraid, I'm afraid. I'm afraid this world's going to hurt you. And I'm afraid, but then you can start getting into the lessons of, yes, I hear you on that. That sounds great. Absolutely. Now I can look at it this way. And now they're ready to have that conversation. Because that's the thing. We have people that are upset all the time in sessions. We're not matching their energy, and we're not coming at them and telling them, you can't come next week if you don't figure this out. That would be horrible.
Giving them the tools they need to navigate their own lives.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do for our kids.
So just to wrap up, teens, if you are struggling, please just talk to your parents about, talking to someone. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And parents, listen to your kids more. Those are the bottom line. This is our talk list. Thank you so much for this episode. We'll see you next week.